Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Robyn. Thank you so much for joining in on a video. Today I am going to be doing a classic garden with me video. I have a lot to do in the garden and I thought I would just take you along with me this afternoon and share what I get up to. It's a little bit of a slow time in the garden in terms of producing flowers to sell at the market, but there is a lot to do in preparation for spring when I will have all of my spring bunches that I'll be selling with our flower farm that we run here. I also have a lot to do in the cottage permaculture garden, which is directly next to the house. That's where I have a lot of my veggies and herbs and medicinal plants. There's a lot to tidy up in there. And I also have a lot of bulbs that I need to plant ASAP that I probably should have done a few weeks ago, but I've still got time. We've still got time to plant our spring bulbs, so that's what I'm going to do today as well. So I'll be sharing just a little bit of a tidy up of some areas of the garden. I do have some statice that I need to harvest and dry for dried flowers. And I have the Ranunculus that I really need to get in the ground along with some spring bulbs as well. So there is a lot to do. So make sure you grab a cup of tea or coffee or some other beverage and definitely a snack. I'm going with a good old cup of tea today. It's definitely starting to cool down here and I'm loving the kind of cool, cozy days that we're having. And it is a beautiful sunny day today, which makes perfect gardening weather. But there is a lot of wind outside, so I'm not too sure how much talking I'm going to do out there. I may do a voiceover, I may not, but we'll see how we go. If you do like garden with me style videos, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for lots more gardening and flower farming content. It really does help me out and is completely free for you. I also do have a Patreon page where I post a little bit more personal style vlogs and travel vlogs and updates over there, where I answer all of your questions in detail as well. Right, I need to enjoy a few sips of this nice warm tea before I head outside, but I really hope you enjoy today's video. So I thought I would start the video by just giving a little bit of an update on all of the seedlings that I have for the flower farm. I have so much stock. This is all the stock here that is almost ready to be planted out, as well as some statice. I have a few trays of that here. And lots of other plants that are in the little plant rehab here or are trying to get established. I've got lots of lavender cuttings that I'm starting because I would like a lot more lavender in the garden, as well as some rhubarb. I'm starting to grow a lot more of this just because I've just found that I really love it and want to be selling some more at the markets. Then the inside setup here, this is where I germinate all of the seedlings just because I don't have a covered area outside, so I germinate them all in here. The things on the top of the seedling trays are just vermiculite, and I've been finding that's really been helping with fungus gnats and also just to retain the moisture when I'm germinating my seeds. So this is a lot of yarrow here that's germinated, some billy buttons and some straw flower, which is exciting. I also do have a few cuttings of some Westringia that I'm starting. I'm hoping that they take and that I can have some more around the garden. And this is some calendula here. Once it's about this size, then I pop it outside onto those the metal racks that I have out there, just because I want them to germinate in here, but they don't get a lot of light. This is only probably the brightest time of the day, and then I take them out when they're a little bit more established. This is how I like to water these trays. I like to water them just from the bottom, and then the soil just naturally uptakes as much moisture as it needs. That way I don't have to disturb the seeds on the very top where they're germinating. A lot of these seeds, like some snapdragons and other seeds like feverfew, are so tiny and I don't want to disturb them when they're germinating, so this works really well. And then for the larger trays like these straw flowers here, I'll usually just take these out and use a mist setting to water these, and that works really well. The straw flowers are a little bit more of a larger seed, so I don't mind using this method, and I also ran out of trays, so yeah, this is working for me, and I'm really excited to have so many more flowers coming into spring. Right, the first job that I was working on today was getting some spring bulbs planted. We have this little area around here beside all of our worm farms that I'm going to be moving eventually around the other side of the house, but for now this is where everything is. And I have this little trellis here that my dad put up, and we have a jasmine growing up on it. This is where my Alma had a jasmine growing, and we wanted to replace it. So it's growing pretty well. It'll be a little slower over winter, but it has started to climb and wind its way through the trellis, so this will be really pretty and just provide a little bit more of some privacy and kind of enclose this area. I really love to have a little bit of a secret garden feel, which is definitely what I'm trying to go for this garden. But around the base of it, I thought we would plant some spring bulbs. So I have some jonquils here. These are the early chia variety, early chia. I don't know how to say this, but I also have some sparaxis. I've never grown these before. This is what the mix looks like. So this was from Garden Express, and they send you a really great guide. Most bulb companies will send something like this, but this is really great if you wanted to pause it here to see how deep you should be planting your spring bulbs. The jonquils were just from Bunnings. I think it was about $35 for a pack of 50, which was pretty good. And the sparaxis I got in just like a mix of different spring bulbs. So I'm going to be planting the jonquils first and just laying them out where I would like them to be. These are really nice, healthy bulbs, and I've had really great success with this variety in the garden. I planted some last year and they have come back this year. Some have even doubled and tripled in the amount of leaf growth that they're putting up right now. So I'm hoping that I get a lot of flowers this year. So I'm planting the jonquils about 10 to 15 centimeters deep here. I've got really bad soil in this area. It looks great, but there's just so many rocks in this area. The garden bed was just covered with gravel, and I did try and remove as many as I could, but I still do have to sift through a few of the rocks before I pop these bulbs in. And then the sparaxis, they need to go down a depth of about 5 centimeters or so. So I'm planting them around that depth and just using my little dibber to plant these. I would have loved to use this for the jonquils, but the bulbs were just too big. So I'm just popping these in all of the spots where I didn't have some jonquils, really randomly placing them, and then just neatening up the mulch around the garden bed. So I'll keep you updated with this and see how they grow into the spring months. Next up, it was definitely time to get all of these anemones and ranunculus into the ground. They really needed to go in maybe like 2 weeks ago, but we just had some really heavy rain and it was just way too wet for planting these. I was running the risk of them really just like rotting, so I needed to wait till the soil was dry enough. You can see they're showing here a little bit of discoloration. That just means they need more nutrients. They're really packed in here and they need to be planted out for them to grow well and not have that kind of purple colouring. Just means they're lacking in nutrients. So you can see the root development here is really great, and this is definitely time to get them in the ground. So I'm going to take these down to some garden beds that I have prepped and get them in the ground. I think these two garden beds are going to be really great for the ranunculus and anemones. This is where I had my zinnias planted, and I've just tried to edge all of the garden beds just so that the grass doesn't encroach in to the garden bed, and also just provide a little bit more drainage to this area. The zinnias grew really well here, and I'm hoping that the anemones and ranunculus do. This is what the zinnias looked like just before I took them out. They still had a lot of flowers, but you can see they just had so much powdery mildew. The plants were just looking really sick, and it was just time to take them out and prep all of the garden beds. To prep them, once I took out all of the zinnias, I used some pelletized chicken manure, as well as some worm castings, and then sugarcane mulch on top of that. The soil was already fairly nice and fluffy because I had broad forked it before I put the zinnias in, and I'm really happy with this soil now that I put the time and effort to broad fork them and just really take care of this soil, because now I can really use more of a no-dig approach and just layer on compost and amendments, and then the soil is fairly loose already, which is great for planting all of these ranunculus. I am planting these pretty close together, around like 10 centimeters apart, sometimes even a little closer. That's just because these corms, they're a little bit small. They're a lot smaller than some of the other corms I've worked with, and I just think they'll grow well like this. I did this last year and I had some great success with these, so I am planting them a little closer together. And I'm hoping that they will grow and give me some gorgeous blooms. But you can plant them, I think it's recommended like 15 to 20 centimeters apart from each other. So this is probably a little bit close, but a lot of flower farmers you'll see will plant a little bit closer than the recommendation. That's just because space, for one thing, is very limited, and I need to get as much as I can planted for the flowers. As well as planting them a little bit closer together is just going to allow them to be a little bit more supported, so I don't have to net them and things like that. And also the bandicoot is less likely to terrorize and dig up everything if the plants are very close together. So you can see I'm just planting these at the level where the greenery starts, making sure not to plant them too deep, or else you can run the risk of the plant rotting. But yeah, you can see the root development on these is really fantastic, and I'm hoping that they grow nice and strong. They have been in the ground for a few days now when I'm recording this voiceover, and they're looking fantastic. So I think they will take off in the next few weeks, and hopefully we will get some blooms. Hopefully, I don't know, within the next few months, definitely. I'll keep you updated on how it all goes. Next up was planting the anemones. Same kind of story, although these were planted a lot closer together in the tray to germinate them. See, I had 2 trays of the ranunculus and 1 of the anemone. That's just because the corms of these, or the bulbs, whatever you want to call it, they're so much smaller and you can pack a lot more in. The main reason why I plant them into these trays first is to germinate them. You can just plant them straight into the ground. You don't have to do what I'm doing here. But because I want to know that they are germinating, you can kind of see this one here it doesn't have any greenery yet, but it has roots. So I'm still going to plant that one, but some of them I noticed just weren't viable. They didn't actually grow. And I don't want to be planting bulbs into an area that I don't know if they're going to grow or not. I need these to grow because I have such limited space, and I need to grow these for flowers to be selling, to make money, and for it to be a profitable thing in the garden. So I'm planting them the same spacing as I did with the Ranunculus, and this is the final result of these. It took me a few days actually to get all of these in the ground. I had a lot of other things going on the day that I started this, but I ended up just filming the rest for you to include in this video. The anemones, I love the look of their foliage. They look so beautiful, and I'm so excited to see this area covered in blooms in a few months. It's going to look so beautiful and I can't wait. So I'm out here harvesting the status now, and I'm picking all of these for dried flowers. This is the second flush of flowers that these plants have had. So they're not as good as the first flush, but I'm still going to be picking these. And after that, I think I'm going to actually just take the plants out and plant new ones. You can just keep status in the ground. It is more a perennial, kind of acts well as a biennial as well. You just don't get as many flowers. I find the first flush of status flowers is the best, so that's why I'm going to be just picking what I have here. You can kind of see like a lot of the flowers are looking good, but they're just not looking as full as they did the very first time. So I will let these mature a little bit more, but then I think, yeah, I'm going to replace all of these status. I've got so many seedlings to plant, so I have more than enough for the flower farm. So I'm also going to be picking some zinnias, and I'm going to be drying these. I'm trying to pick the ones that are really full, like this one here, rather than like these ones, the single ones. They don't necessarily have to have super long stems because I might put these into mini dried bouquets. So this is really just a trial to see how they do. I have tried to dry a few zinnias and they look really nice, but I definitely prefer the full blooms. So I'm going to pick some of those and then hang them up to dry and see how they look. Alright, I didn't manage a lot, but I did get a few flowers that I can dry. I've been finding dried flowers have been really successful at the markets. They're also something that just relieves so much pressure and stress off me on the day of the market when I'm planning how much stock I have, whether it's like worth it, whether I can make enough money down at the markets. It's been really great to have the dried flowers to rely on, particularly all of the gorgeous status. And I'm thinking, depending how many I have here ready in the next few weeks, we do have a few markets coming up, but I think I might even try and put together like some fresh to dry bunches where I can pick them fresh and then people can have them in water for a little bit, or they can choose to dry them at home. That just saves space for me to dry them all. I might just trial and see how that goes, because yeah, I do have so much status and it sells really, really well. It is really slow down in this patch here, mainly because I don't have all of the beds prepped and because there's a lot of weeds, and that's just what happens. My plan is to definitely tackle this area and just pop some like tarps over the areas that are really weedy, because it's just too much time. It takes too much time to thoroughly weed all of the beds, and I just prefer to tarp them and then the worms can do it all for me. So that's what I think I'll do over the next few days, particularly like that patch over there. You can kind of see very full of weeds, full of grass, and still has some beetroot in there that I haven't harvested yet. But the good news is I do have a few beds that are ready to go, ready to be planted. So I'll be planting the rest of the Ranunculus in here, as well as all of the stock that I have, snapdragons, some more feverfew, to fill in all of those beds. But yeah, it's definitely so nice to come down here now that the weather is nice and cool, to come out here in the afternoons and just get a few hours work done, or even just 20 minutes in the flower farm area just to tidy it all up and keep on top of it. It's been so nice to just enjoy this cool weather that we're having. Right, I think I'm going to take these flowers up, hang them up, and then I have a few pumpkins that I do want to pick from the garden today. They're looking ready and I just want to get them out so that I can clear all of the vines out eventually, and then tidy up in the cottage garden later in the week. So I'll probably film that in a separate video, but let's go pick the pumpkins now because that's the fun part, and I know I love seeing harvesting, so let's go and do that. I didn't actually plant these just grew out of the compost pile, as did our other massive pumpkins that we have in the garden. But we do eat a lot of butternut pumpkins, so I'm assuming that's what was in the compost and this group. So we've had a few little butternut pumpkins, which these are actually my favorites, so I'm thankful that we had them in the garden. I do have a video on when to harvest pumpkins if you're unsure. I'll leave that linked in the description box, but you want to make sure, depending on the pumpkin variety, that the neck is fairly firm on the pumpkin and that the skin is also nice and firm as well. And generally, as the plant starts to die back, they start to become ready, which was definitely the case for our pumpkin plants. So I think I'm going to leave this video here. I didn't get as much done in the garden as I would have wanted. I did also spend some time in the garden with Scott, which was really nice, just to be outside and relax. And I didn't get all of the anemones and ranunculus planted, but you would have seen that, which I'll film tomorrow, and I would have included it in this video, but that's okay. I've definitely had a little bit of time off filming, so I'm just getting back into the swing of things and wanting to just enjoy filming again and being out in the garden. So I will be filming lots more over the coming weeks, but I just wanted to grab the camera today and film just the few little jobs that I was getting up to in the garden. So I really hope you enjoyed this garden with me video. Let me know what you'd like to see coming up. I have a lot of things that I'm going to be planting over the next few months, and getting in the ground and tidying up in the garden. I'd also love to know what you've been up to in your garden. What are you planting right now? What are you excited for? Or just what's happening in nature around you. You can kind of hear the birds in the background, and there's definitely been a bit of a seasonal shift in the wildlife around, which I've been loving so much. And just kind of seeing how the birds are interacting and all of the different frogs at night, and yeah, things happening in the garden. It's been really awesome to see that seasonal shift, because I do love autumn and the cooler months down here on the south coast of New South Wales. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for lots more content. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and until my next one, happy gardening everyone. Bye.